Historical records suggest that the crawling god has always been there. A permanent, jagged monument stitched to our orange-hued sky. An impossible mountain range of recursive geometries and knotted metal. Its silhouette so deeply engraved in our collective memory that even our oldest cave walls depict it in exact detail, without variation. Our civilization, in its youth, prayed to it. What we believed was some form of emissary to the All-Creator, placed in the firmament to watch over us in silence, unto eternity. In its name we built pyramids, cathedrals, pyramid cathedrals even, towering ziggurats that spiraled without end, designed to mimic its incomprehensible recursiveness. Annually we held festivals in its honor, great dances of fire and flame, flowing mirrored robes, bodies forming symbols we never really understood. We burned swaths of forest in this offering, lighting up our atmosphere in artificial auroras, praying to keep our still-wrought god entertained, to keep it amused, to keep it invested. Our technological rise came steadily, stretched across millennia, not because we necessarily lacked curiosity or innovativeness, but because we were never starting from zero. We had, after all, been born under the watchful eye of an unyielding constant. The crawling god hung over every theory, every model, every equation, a variable no one dared remove. Its presence distorted everything. The shape and direction of our physics, our cosmology, our approach to logic itself. Our earliest models of gravity had to accommodate its refusal to orbit. Our atmospheric data was permanently skewed by the unyielding pressure of its form at the edge of our stratosphere. Our astronomers charted stars from around its limbs, or what we thought were limbs. Without exception, every emergent school of thought emerged not to question its nature, but to justify it. Our sciences were built never to challenge the divine, but to explain its mechanics, to decode its mind-bending, infinite architecture. We had begun launching vessels out into low orbit some 50 solar cycles ago, a monumental task made infinitely more complex by the presence of our deity in the sky. Not just because of its mass and its gravitational distortions, but because it did not permit intrusion. Every attempt to approach it directly, be they unmanned probes, survey drones, even fragments of space debris, met the exact same fate. An unseen field, humming with silent, esoteric energies, surrounded its body. A perimeter of complete, absolute denial. Objects would vanish mid-approach. No explosion, no scattering of parts, just erased from existence. We believed it was just being protective, that it knew what was best for us, and that we were not yet ready. Still, we tried. Mission after mission, decade after decade, generation after generation. Scientists, believers, pilots, martyrs all. Hundreds lost in a morbid attempt to map its sky with mass religious paranoia, studying the failed trajectories as if decoding scripture. And then, just 5 cycles ago, something changed. A probe, nothing remarkable or special, managed to slip in, transmitting a signal from within the perimeter. It did not survive, but the implications were clear. A crack, neither large nor stable, but it was there. The crawling god was inviting us in. Within weeks, funding was poured into our space programs. All petty politics dissolved. Entire cities and towns were emptied out to staff the effort. The next 5 cycles were an unprecedented period of unity for our people. Wars stopped, dead in their tracks. Borders softened. Flags became less relevant. Old enemies embraced. The first time in recorded history, we had acted as one. Not out of fear, not out of survival, but in service to a greater purpose, to reach the unyielding divine and land on the impossible, to touch the crawling god. Launch day began in silence. Not by decree, but by instinct. No horns, no choir, no fanfare. Even the animals moved differently, more slowly, more measuredly, as if they too felt the weight of the air. A quietness settled over the world, universally understood, the stillness of an entire planet holding its breath before the divine. The sun rose, pale and slow behind a shimmering veil of cloud. The skies had been cleared. No vessels allowed aloft. The launch site was stretched all around, a structure the size of a small city, wrought in heat-resistant alloys and chemically etched prayer markings. At its center stood the ship, the Ascendant, standing tall and proud, its bone-white ceramic plating inscribed with several thousand glyphs drawn from every major tradition. It had taken 3 whole cycles to design and construct, a marvel of innovation, a measure of what we as a species could achieve working as one. When the final hour arrived, 14 billion individuals fell silent in unison. Across every continent, the launch was broadcast live. Footage was projected onto the walls of every government building. The sick were carried up to rooftops. The incarcerated, too, were allowed to watch from their cell blocks. Some wept. Some chanted. Others looked upward, filled with hope and promise for the future. At T-0, the platform shuddered open with a sound like of a stirring planet. The Ascendant rose on a pillar of white flame, moving slowly, reverently, as if being called to purpose by the very divine it was built to reach. It passed through cloud, through sunlight, and then into shadow. The shadow of the crawling god, impossibly still, waiting, as it had done for our species' entire history. In that moment, even the doubters knelt. Even the atheists fell silent. For the first time in our collective memory, we did not wonder if it was watching. We knew. Soon, despite what felt like hours, the Ascendant began its final approach towards the Great Crack. The entire planet held its breath. Its trajectory arced gently towards the thin, flickering seam in the otherwise flawless armor of the divine being. Barely visible to the eye, yet unmistakable on our scanners. From the ground, we watched in stillness. The winds paused. The oceans calmed. No one spoke. Not in command towers, not in cathedrals, not in homes. Would it open? Would the crawling god let us into its domain? No one knew. No one could. As the vessel neared, telemetry flickered. Gravity readings warped slightly, just for a brief moment. The crack shimmered slightly, like it had noticed. And then it parted, as if it had always meant to. For us, or for something that wore our shape. As the Ascendant passed through, the world seemed to exhale all at once. Now assured of divine acceptance, finally confirmed, it had let us in. On every scene, every wall, the ship's feeds came online. At first only static, then motion, color, light bending in wrong directions. The camera stabilized. The interior was not empty, but not quite structured either. It was like drifting through a grand cathedral built by someone who had no conception of a straight line. Chambers, impossibly tall, looped and coiled into themselves. Stairways looped into non-Euclidean spirals and vanished into nothingness. No visible machinery, no seams, just seamless, knotted corridors and shifting towers that seemed to breathe just ever so slightly. It was beautiful, unreadable, shapes that shouldn't have been stable, yet were. The corridor narrowed, steadily, subtly. The gravity changed, like a grip tightening around the ship. Ahead, a structure emerged, enormous, pronged, built into the curvature, jutting out of the knotted metal like a perverse branch. Not a hangar, not a bay, A docking cradle, ancient but waiting, as if it had always expected someone to arrive. The ascendant eased in, unresisted, simply sliding into place. The feed switched again, this time to the crew's helmet cameras, offering a first-person view of the immense, surreal interior. They stepped out, the material underfoot giving way slightly, as if welcoming their weight. Before them, an entrance opened up, inviting them in. A vast chamber of coiling monoliths, and glyphs repeating across space and time in unintuitive fashion. Then they reorganized, flattened, near translated. One of the monoliths sparked to life. A screen, a voice. Not one of the crew's, not any of ours. Something else. Grainy footage. A face, not one of our species, yet eerily familiar. Multiple faces, smooth-skinned, upright. 2 eyes, 2 arms. Their mouths moved. A language, stilted and fragmented. A language I half understood. Why do I half understand them? A word, a phrase. Let them remember. Unforgiven. The cadence, the structure, uncanny parallels with our oldest tongues. Linguistic roots that should never have existed, should not have emerged naturally, yet echoed perfectly in our myths, in our prayers, in our curses. And then I heard it. Humanity. Humanity? The word landed like a stone in still water. Our whole planet bristled, all at once. Not physical, but cultural, ancestral. Entire species-level memory shuddered under the weight of horrific recognition. Because in every recorded culture, every continent, every origin story, there was one constant, one mind-bending commonality. A race of vengeful gods, burning, relentless. Enders of civilizations, all phonetic variations of the same root. Humanity. The footage changed. A sky on fire, not orange like ours, but a somber pale blue. The camera trembled with motion. Static scrawled across the edges of the frame like rot. In the distance, buildings split open under the weight of falling light. Not flame, but force, bent and pure. My breath caught. Not from the devastation, but from what came next. Ships, descending. Foreign, yet not. The angles, the proportions, the clean lines, curved holes, too familiar. Shapes we still build to this day. Designs etched in our industrial memory. They opened fire. Some hovered, others landed. And from their bellies, soldiers emerged, encased in sleek armor, wielding weapons that curved and distorted the air around them, sweeping for the chaos like a surgical nightmare. And they bore our faces. The footage changed again. Darkness. An interior, enclosed. Silent, massive, industrial, perverse. Monitors flickered. Sparks danced along the exposed cabling as workers moved to fix them in somber, solemn silence, like priests performing the last rites of their own species. A monument, a weapon, a final message carved in alloy and tragic fury. It sat there in its launch cradle, coiled, a dying god prepared to breathe one final truth into the void. Panels along its surface bore inscriptions, not of ownership, but of grief. Names, coordinates, warnings, curses. Then, a voice, human, resigned. We die. But you will not forget us. Not anymore. The screen dimmed as launch protocols were set off. Vast clamps unhanded the beast. Red floodlights flared. A low rumble began, deep, long, and sonorous. The machine rose. Slow, heavy, unstoppable. A vengeful god set to crawl across the void. The footage shifted a final time. A planet seen from orbit, consumed by fire. Its upper atmosphere glowed red like a blistering aurora, fractured and split by ceaseless orbital bombardment and gravitational stress. Cities went dark in waves. Oceans boiled into vapor, reflecting sunbeams like a chaotic, furious dance. A storm of flowing, mirrored robes spinning through the troposphere. No sound, but the hollow stillness of the void. I leaned forward, breath caught in my chest. Then I saw it. The curvature, the familiar lines of the tectonic ridges. Mountain ranges, set aflame, but their distinctive jagged shapes, recognizable still. Contours I had traced since childhood, printed onto schoolbooks and etched into currency. Our world. It was neither metaphor, prophecy, nor dramatization. This was a recording. Our planet. Burning. Seen from eyes that did not think, did not care, did not know us, not anymore, if they ever had. I can't help but laugh at the irony. Looking up at that thing in the sky. The thing sent to wipe us out. A retribution we never remembered earning. The thing we worshipped. The thing we prayed to. The thing we had built great towers, coiling and screaming toward the stars, just to be nearer to it. The thing that unified us, that stilled wars, that gave us peace. The shape in the sky we called holy. It was never a god. And now I hear my entire species recoiling, the shattering of our collective conscience, echoing across the world as belief collapses under the weight of incomprehensible, morbid truth. The prayers turning to ash in their mouths as they scream bloody murder into an uncaring void. And I can't help but laugh.